Okay, let's try that again. My apologies. We're going to repeat because I forgot to hit the record button. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the JUG for business owners who use Joomla. We're really glad to have you here today. Robin Clapp, the official host, is not able to make it today. She's got an exciting family event that she's going on a journey with a family member to celebrate something, and I'll let her tell you all about that at the next meeting. But I'm your host today, so you have to suffer through me. Uh, Today we have an exciting meeting, and we are going to do our agenda is this is we do member introductions and a welcome, and we don't have a member spotlight today, so we're going to be able to spend more time with our main feature, which is extraordinarily exciting. We have, and I'll introduce our speaker in a few minutes, but because we have a lot of people popping in today, I want to motor through the welcome introductions as quickly as possible. So what we'll do is we'll just basically get you to uh, say hello, who you are, where you're from, and what your connection with Joomla is. So introduce yourself, where you're from, and what's your connection with Joomla. And I'm going to say, start with Alan. Alan, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alan Badiger. I'm in Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas. Longtime Joomla user since like 1.5 or so, and recently been moving most of my sites up to Joomla 5. Forget which version of 5, but anyway, moving to 5, and been learning about creating modules to work with Joomla because some of the older sites have modules that are no longer supported, no longer available. So we're having to basically replace some functionality that was used to access external databases uh, for the new sites.
Awesome. Okay. Next one on the list here is Kotlin printing. Who's Kotlin printing?
Joe, this is Ed Hathaway from Green, North Carolina. Hello, everyone.
Hey Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing well, doing quite well. Trying my way around WordPress. So, um, but I've been with Joomla, or I've been with framework since the very beginning of Mambo, and stumbled upon it by accident, and have moved my way through many migrations, and have put an awful lot of angst onto my family, with all the traveling that we've done with Joomla. So it's been a lot of fun. Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. Okay, so next we'll go to Adam, and then we'll go to Anne. Adam?
Hi, my name's Adam Melcher. I'm here just south of Nashville, Tennessee. Um, my journey started right basically in the transition from Joomla 1.0 to 1.5 and all the excitement back then. I have only worked on Joomla sites since, and my family's been very fortunate to benefit from the the successes that we've had. With helping, primarily for me as e-commerce clients. But I'm excited about the upcoming Joomla Day event and meeting some of the legends in Joomla that are going to be flying from all over the world. So my connection to Joomla is probably, I would say existential and spiritual and emotional, since it's what I do for 10, 11, 12 hours a day.
Awesome. Anne, and then Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ann Noter Thomas from Syracuse, New York, and I'm for the last 12 years been building Joomla websites for clients.
Awesome. Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen Rothwax. I'm from Fairfield, Connecticut. I've been building websites for about 20 years, and Joomla since, I don't know, 2005, 2006. something like that. 20, I don't even know. I do it for small businesses and professionals mostly. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, the next we have somebody in here by F.J. Ventura County. Who is that?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, there you are. Hi, how you doing? Introduce
Hi.
yourself.
Hi, I'm Frank. I go by FJ, and I'm a single member LLC, California LLC in Ventura County. Originally from Norway. The background is actually where I grew up north of the Arctic Circle. I have most of my clients on Joomla 4 right now, and the ones that are not are using the Joomla extended long-term support for Joomla 3 until they get their stuff together. Trying to keep them from WordPress and stay on Joomla. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Good man. Laura, and then we'll do Marty. Or Mary.
Hey, everybody. Brian, it's so good to see you. Anyway, Laura Gordon, originally from New York, living in New Jersey. Right now I'm in Florida, which is why I have the light room here and going to the pool later. Anyway, I've been working on Joomla since 2004. Rutgers, we managed 120 Joomla websites. 118 of them are on Joomla 4. I'm moving one more over to 4. Then we're going to start moving over to 5, which going to 5 will be much, much easier, but we have a very detailed process to go through. So we did it. We did it. Joomla Day USA. So if any of you that are in here have not registered yet, please register, come. It's going to be a really dynamic event. I'd love to see you in person. We are giving away long sleeve shirts. We're going to have a photo shoot where you can get a headshot done, professional headshot for anyone that comes in person. We're going to have a mug, and we're going to have a barbecue at somebody's house on Thursday night in Nashville. So how can you not do that? Plus food and drinks and all of that. And actually, I think he stepped out. Yeah. So anyway, please come register. It's jdayusa.com. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I have had some people that wanted to buy like tickets for their whole company. We're having people come in from India and different places. If you're buying more than 3 or 4 tickets, send me an email, let me know, because sponsorship may be a better route for you anyway. So just let me know. We will take care of it. We'll help you out. And thank you. There you go. There was my plug, Joe. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Mary and then Mike.
Yeah, Mary from Washington State. I've been using Joomla since it branched off from Mambo, and my connection is I use it all day, every day. Thank you.
Right, Mike.
Hey, I'm Mike Kreitzer. I'm born and raised in California, Los Angeles, and now living in the high desert, about an hour north of Los Angeles. Been using Joomla since the end of Mambo, and have just launched my first Joomla 5 site.
Awesome. Pat and then Paul. You there, Pat? All right, Pat, we'll come back to you. Paul and then Paulo. All right, let's get Paul for now. Paulo, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm Paul I am from Portugal. I haven't been developing any websites in the last years. So last time I worked with Joomla, it was 3.5, I guess. But occasionally I've been in these meetings to follow up, to keep up with the team, and hopefully come back with Joomla 5, which I hear it's great now. So thank you again.
It absolutely is. Tim Davis and then Wesley.
Hey everyone, Tim Davis. Greetings from the left coast of Canada. Been around since the Mambo days, and I have the Basic Joomla Tutorials YouTube channel. Also doing support for PHP web design and their extensions, especially Migrate Me 4.
Awesome. Wesley and then Yorgos.
Good morning, Wesley from Tucson, Arizona. I've been using Joomla since around its inception, but coding and making websites since about 1994, since whenever this whole thing started. All my sites are on Joomla 4, and I'm still looking at the process to move to Joomla 5. My host provider, to my knowledge, does not have the correct SQL version, so I haven't been able to deal with that yet, but I have to make my next steps for that. And then yesterday I spent some time cleaning out old extensions that I had going back 10 or so plus years in my files. And it was so sad to see some of these companies that have just gone, extension writers that have gone totally belly up and such. And it just kind of made me sad to think that there's a lot of effort that goes in and that it only lasts for a limited time, as things change so rapidly in the marketplace and people come and go. But that's just the way my mind thinks, and I'll keep moving forward. And I'm glad for the extension providers that are out there and template providers and all that who are writing code for us today, because I don't know how to do that. Thanks.
Yorgos, come on in. Yorgos, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody. I'm from Cyprus, the small island in the Mediterranean Sea. I'm using Joomla since Mambo, and I'm doing websites for small companies all over my country. And now I start doing newspapers, news online sites using Joomla. And I'm very happy with that because it's very, very, very good. That's all.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Now, we had somebody come in here. I'm looking for the name. I'm not seeing it. Is Rhonda still around?
Yes. Oh.
There you are. Introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and how you connected to Joomla.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Hutchison. I'm from Dallas, and I connect with Joomla when I was looking to build a website for my IT company. And I am happy to have found it. I was a client who pointed me in that direction, and it was great advice.
Awesome. Thank you. And is Pat, are you back? You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm back. Okay, my name is Pat Vandenbosch, and my company is Pat VB Web Design. And I'm involved with Laura and others in the J-Day USA experience coming up. Since I live in Tennessee, there was no way I wasn't going to be there. And if I was going to be there, I was going to be active and supportive of everything. And let's see, what else? Oh, Joomla. Let's see, I was doing sites in Microsoft Front Page. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. I had to run through the house for a minute. And I did, adding a database, and that was my very first website. And then I got really good at getting websites moved up in Google, and I was on the first page in Google for web design in Tennessee. Now, I know it's a falsehood, but I knew what I was doing then. Now I don't know what I'm doing with SEO because I'm not that high up in the chain of command. But I had a man call me from Colorado and said, how would you like to learn Joomla? And it was still at 1.0. It just switched from Mambo to Joomla. And then I went to work for the Chamber of Commerce and started getting clients coming out of the woodwork because I made so many connections. And currently I am basically doing governments, small town governments, federal agencies, not federal, local government agencies. And I have a few retail clients, but not near as many as I do with all of the government websites, and that's it.
All right, thank you. Sorry if I missed anybody here. I'm Joe, by the way. I'm Joe Sunny from Canada. I think I'm the only other Canuck beside Tim. I'm on the opposite side of Canada near Toronto. And my Joomla brand is Joe Joomla, and I've been doing it since well, since they formed Joomla for Mambo. I missed the Mambo days, got in with the Joomla crowd, and have been doing Joomla ever since. Today we have a very exciting main presentation. I'm really excited to introduce to you today one of the founding members of Joomla, Brian Teeman. Brian's from across the ocean, and Brian's bringing us an important topic on accessibility today. And so, Brian, you have got the floor, and tell us what you prepared for us, and anything I missed, you just fill it in for me.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to see a lot of faces that I've seen before, either online or luckily in person. Hopefully one day I'll manage to tick the boxes and get to see everybody. I'm just going to try and share my screen, which is always that challenging moment. So I hope everyone can now see my screen, please. Oh, no, you can't.
No. Now we can.
Now you can. Right. Okay. So I did also have it set up to very nicely show me my face on the screen, but it's not doing that. So hopefully you can still see me while I'm talking.
Yes, we can see you're on the side there.
Okay, great, because that bit's not working. So today's topic is website accessibility. What are the main issues and whose responsibility is it to fix them? Interestingly, I noticed yesterday that there's a new law being proposed in California. It's fallen down the slate, so it looks like it'll probably never come or be a long time in the future. But the interesting part was that if your website isn't accessible under this new proposed Californian law, the company whose website it is and the company who built the websites are both liable. So it's an interesting change. We'll come back to that probably a little bit later. So it's great that people are starting to look at what accessibility means. So over the last 4 or 5 years, as well as all my Joomla work, I've been really building up an accessibility portfolio. I've spent a year working with the European Union on a cross CMS project, looking to creating accessible content. Done a little bit of work with the US government, a little bit more with the UK government, ongoing work with the Singapore government, and some work with Microsoft and PayPal as well on the accessibility, either their accessibility tools or the services that they're offering, to make sure that they are indeed accessible. So I've split up today into 3 parts. First part is why it matters. Well, the first one, it's the law, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Accessibility, a good accessible website will improve your SEO. Why? Because everything that makes good SEO makes good accessible websites, and vice versa. And for me, the most important thing is just simply to do the right thing. So you've noticed that I've got subtitles running along the background, along the bottom of this presentation. That's just doing the right thing. I don't know if anybody needs them, but it's there to help. And so I think it's the right thing to do, that we make everything that we do accessible. I'm going to show in the second part, I'll show you a few of the quick remedies that you can use with Joomla today. Everything that I talk about is available in Joomla 4 and 5. I'm not talking about Joomla 3 at all. And then finally, if we have some time, a few people very kindly volunteered their websites for me to do a quick review on, and show you some of the tools that I use that you could use as well to review your websites for accessibility. So what is accessibility? Well, in German, the word is barrier-frei. I've probably pronounced that terribly, but it means barrier-free, the removal of barriers so that everybody can use your websites. Some people describe it as accessibility means that instead of having a step or staircase into your building, you have a ramp or an elevator. It's the same sort of approach. It's making sure that everybody has access. There's 1 billion people, that's about 15% of the world, who have a permanent disability. So that's 15% minimum of people who you might be excluding from your websites or not offering the optimum experience. So most of the people in this room are in the US or Canada. So apologies to Paulo and Yorgos, who are in Portugal and Cyprus. These laws don't apply to you, but there is equivalent European laws. So in the US, the main laws that cover website accessibility are the ADA and Section 508. Roughly speaking, the Section 508 applies to all federal sites or services that they create or that they use. So if a site is created to be used by federal employees, that would be covered by Section 508. The ADA, the American Disabilities Act, is a little bit wider and pretty much covers most people, most websites, sorry. And actually, a lot of the legal issues taking place in the USA regarding website accessibility are being dealt with as a civil rights issue. So you've got all the US civil rights and freedom of speech and freedom of expression regulations that come into that. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction, there's this new California proposal, 1757, which puts the onus on responsibility as a shared between the company owner and of let's say it's Domino's, so between Domino's and the company that built the website for them. So one of the things about accessibility or disability is it's the only minority group that anyone can join at any time. Almost everyone at some point in their life will experience a disability. Now that could be, I've just shown you these two illustrations, it could be that you've damaged your hand, you've slipped and you can no longer use one of your hands for a month or so. Or it could be you got a new child, and you're juggling, holding the child and trying to do the work on the computer. That's classed as a disability in terms of what we need to make sure that you can do when you're using a website. So accessibility features, they might be necessary for some people, but they're beneficial to all. Now, the subtitles on the bottom of this screen are a great example of that. For those that are hard of hearing, having the subtitles is really great. And it's an accessible requirement. For somebody else who maybe English is not their first language, they might find that having the subtitles for them to read as I speak helps get round any of my British accent or the speed that I talk. So it's bent so everybody will benefit from them. So now on to Joomla. So there is two parts to accessible websites. I'm only going to be talking today about one part. So the first part is using Joomla. So that's your job. Yeah? Is Joomla accessible for you in order for you to do your job? And it probably is the most accessible CMS that's available for people to build websites with. I mentioned before I worked on a European Union cross-community project, and all of the 10 recommendations that we made to the CMSs. Joomla has or had already implemented 9 of those. Most of the other CMSs are still to achieve more than 3 or possibly 4. So in terms of, is Joomla accessible to use? It's pretty damn good. But that's not really what I'm talking about today, because what I'm talking about today is, what is the experience like for your site visitors? If you're building an e-commerce site like Adam, or you're building a business site like Pat, or whatever, what's the website like for the people who are actually using it? Is it accessible for them? And I like to think that out of the box, Joomla builds the most accessible websites more than anybody else, in terms of a pure, out of the box, no extensions experience. So there is a website called webaim.org. And WebAIM is one of the oldest, longest in existence accessibility resource websites. Excellent site, lots of great information there. But for the last, I think it's about the last 5 years, they've been running a search on the top 1 million websites in the world. So this is an automated crawl of those sites and looking for certain accessibility errors that can be detected. Yeah, only on the homepage, but it's covering up the top 1 million sites. They use a few different sources for that 1 million, so it might be a little bit over. And so every year they've been doing this report, and you can read their results online. This is a summary of what they find. So this is errors that they can detect. There may be more errors than that, but these are errors that they can detect automatically. I'm probably going to mention almost all of these at some point coming up in its own section. The 2 that I'm not going to be mentioning are number 3 and number 4, which are invalid dot types, which 10% of websites had, and missing document language, which 18% had. That's something that's at the top, very first 2 lines of your website. If you look in the source code, that Joomla does automatically for you. I've never come across a Joomla site that has removed that. It's virtually impossible to do because you need it. But apparently, of the top 1 million websites in the world, a lot of them do, or haven't added it in, would be more accurate. So it's developers who think they know best and have written their own software to build the websites, and they're clearly missing out on things. So just to highlight the big ones on this list, which I will go into more detail. So the biggest one is low contrast text, followed by no skip to links, which I'll explain. Skipped heading levels, missing form inputs, empty links, and missing alternate text are all pretty much the same. And then we just got a few outliers that they can detect. But those are the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that 10 or 11 items that they detected? So some of these are huge. So unfortunately, he's not here, but I did put on the Facebook group earlier that was anyone willing to volunteer their website for me to review? And Owen was one of the people who very kindly did. And he said, you can use any of mine because none of them are specifically optimized. Now, I want to challenge Owen. Accessibility is not something that you specifically optimize. Accessibility is part of your entire build process. It's not something you add on later. It's what you do when you're building your website at the time. It's how you add images, it's how you write content, it's how you structure content, it's how you add menu items, everything. That's all part, accessibility is just part of it. Just as you would not have you would spell check, that's not something special that you would do. neither should accessibility. It should become part of your process. So the first one at the top of the list was skip links. So I'll just nip over to a screenshot. So this is the Washington Post homepage from a while ago, I must admit, although probably the news hasn't changed too much. And you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, it says, unfortunately, I can't read the actual text here, but it says skip to or something, main content or something. And what that is, that appears when you load your website, when you load the website up and you press the tab key. And as soon as you hit the tab key, that appears. And that's a button that you can then click on or hit your enter key, and it will jump you through to the beginning of the contents. Why do you have this? So that you avoid listening to, if you're using a screen reader, or tabbing through, if you're not using a mouse and you're using a keyboard, all the menu items over and over and over again. So, whoops. So this is the BBC's website. Exactly the same idea. I've pointed to where they have the link. Only appears if you hit the tab key, so it's not visually disturbing to anybody else. And if I go on to the article at the top right, the McCann's Welcome Declaration of Formal Suspect, when I open that article, I don't want to have to navigate through that whole menu bar, 2 rows of the menu right at the top every time. So you just, when you open, you can hit the tab and you moved on. So that's what a skip link is. 82% of the websites do not have this. They're forcing you to go through it every time. That's really an unpleasant experience. It's one of the few things that you can easily test yourself, which is by stop using your mouse for the day and just use your keyboard. Actually, just use your mouse, stop using it for 5 minutes and just use your keyboard, and you'll begin to appreciate it. But Joomla gives you an opportunity to do even more than that. And Joomla has built in this skip link, which, if you can see, this is one of my test sites. It's offering me the full content tree, the full navigation tree within this article. Yeah, so I've got my header area, footer area, my page outline, which has got my new trips, each of the individual trips, and then the footer, etc. The cool thing about this is that, of course, now I can just go to a specific part of the page, not just to the beginning of the main content, which is what the other two offered you. But the really clever bit is you don't have to do anything. It builds that list automatically on the fly, dynamically for you from the content of your page. So where do you find this? In the Joomla admin. This is enabled by default, so you can actually test it out in the admin. It's a plugin. It's called Skip To, so you can find it in your, I think it's System Skip To plugins. And by default, it's set to just the admin, but you can just, there's one option there, and you can turn it to both, which means admin and site. And right away, your site visitors will have access to it. It has a couple of other benefits for you as a site builder, but I'll come on to those a bit later. Nobody else has anything like this. Only Joomla has something like this, and the W3C's own website. They're the only people that have got anything as complex as this, and it's awesome. Because as you saw, that list was showing me the visual hierarchy, the hierarchy structure of the content of the page. If we look on this screen, you can see on the left, you would never write an article that looks like that, just rows and rows and rows of text. You would break it down with headlines, subheadings, images, maybe some quotes. You give it a visual hierarchy. Now, here we can see 2 pages. Now, visually, they have that hierarchy. Visually, they are identical. But are they? Well, let's have a look. So on the left, you can see it has a heading level 1. On the right, also a heading level 1. And then let's look for any other headings on the page. Well, on the left, that's it. On the right, we have a level 2, level 3, another 2, and another 3. And why is that? Because on the left, the person designing the site has used spans and inline formatting. When the person on the right, all they did is used headings. Now, this is sometimes called semantic headings, but the important thing to know is you need them. Don't have font style 24, font family Arial, etc. on your text. Have H3. Because also, it means that when you look at the skip to link, you see now on the left, the page outline just says headings. But on the right, it's now got headings, course information, course details, instructor information, and instructor details. Because it's automatically read the page, read the headings, and displayed it. Now, this is useful. Obviously, as I've said, if you're using the skip to link, it's really useful. You can see it. If you're navigating with your keyboard, it's really useful because you can jump to specific parts. If you're listening to the screen being read by some assistive technology, the typical thing you will do is you will have your screen reader set to announce the heading levels when the page loads. And then you make a decision which to go to next. So on the left, all you will hear is headings. And on the right, you will hear headings level 1, course information 2, course details 3, etc., etc. So you're benefiting the people who are listening to your website. And then finally, you know who else understands the code on the right more than the code on the left? Google. Because the code on the right, which just said H3, Google understands that H3 is a third level of importance. Google doesn't understand that font style 24 font family Arial has any importance whatsoever. So accessibility, SEO, good structure of content, it's all one thing. It's not something that you add on, it's something that you do as part of the whole process of building websites. So the other part of a website, there's very few websites that don't have some links. Even single page websites have links to other parts of the page at a very minimum. So every website has a link. And the important thing about a link is to tell somebody where the link will take them and what they will find there. So every time you're putting a link, and when I say link, I also mean buttons and menu links and links in your content itself. Think about, are you telling someone where that link will go and what they will find? Because I can guarantee you one thing, if you tell somebody special offer and they get to a page and the page says prices have gone up, they're not very happy with you and they probably won't bother again. It's an extreme example, but it's to illustrate the point. So this is a blog, fairly simple. As we can see, we've got 4 articles, 4 titles. Each one of them's got a read more link. Right? Now, if you are listening to the websites or you're navigating with the keyboard, that means you will just jump from link to link to link. Or you might be presented with a list of links on the page so that you know where you want to go. If you just hear, read more, read more, read more, read more, it's meaningless because you can see that the first read more is probably going to be related to the title above it, digital nomad. But that's because you can see. If you can't see, you wouldn't know that which of those read mores is related to what. So what we can do is two options. You can change your read more to include the title of the article. So it says read more, digital nomad, read more, work remotely, etc. That's an option in Joomla you can just enable. But you're probably going to tell me, oh, that's ugly. I don't want that. That's fine. We can deal with that as well. Because we can also have read mores that look as if they just say read more, but to a machine, that would be a screen reader or Google, it will actually have the full text. And that's done because the link itself has what's called an ARIA label, a bit of code, which says read more digital nomad. And when you have that, the screen reader will see the second one, read more digital nomad, and not the first one. Again, there's nothing you have to do if you want this. You just go into Joomla, go to the article options and scroll down. And right down the bottom there, we have it. It says read more link, show. Do you want to show the title? And what's the limit? And it's going to do all of this for you. So that's awesome. So again, that's set once, forget about it. I forget now what the default setting is on a new install because everything I'll be doing is upgrade. But it's all there, all sorted for you. But Joomla can do even more than that. Because what it can also do is it can scan the page and tell you when you've made a mistake. So if you're using Joomla 4 or Joomla 5, you will have seen when you create content on the toolbar where it says save, save and close, save to menu, etc. There is an extra button, there's a preview button, and there's a button that says accessibility check. And if you click on the accessibility check, it opens up your article in a new window and runs a series of checks. One of those checks is to look at the links that you've got. So this is just a screenshot. If we have time later, I'll do a demo. But here we can see that the very first one that's got that it's found, it just says learn more. It's put a big red warning sign next to it. And it says error. This link text may not be descriptive enough. And it gives you a tip, what you should do. So that's what we call an ambiguous link. It's not, you can't be sure what it's going to do when you get there. You also quite often get empty links that you discover. That's because there was a link there before. You've deleted it in your WYSIWYG editor, but you've actually only managed to delete the text. The link is still sort of there, or part of the link is there. Quite a common thing that you can't visually see. This will find those and highlight them. It's also going to highlight if the link is going to somewhere, another website, and give you some advice for that. What else can it do? Yeah. If you have an image, now when I say an image, that could be a button, yeah, or it could be a photograph. Both are the same. And you're making that a link. So that's a very common thing to do. The image, you're not describing the image, you have to describe where it's going to. So if I had a photo of Joe, and I was using that photo of Joe to put as a link on my website that will go to his own website, the alt text, the description won't be Joe wearing a plaid shirt as a typical Canadian. It will be, this takes you to read more about Joe Joomla. So it's a slightly different thing. But again, the accessibility checker will spot all of these and warn you and give you advice. So you can quickly go back into your article and edit it. So if you remember right at the beginning, the other biggie was color contrast. And for some of you in the room who are looking at that, that's not a spelling mistake. That is how you write the word color. Color contrast is important, is one of the things that you really get pulled up on. Accessibility checking software will find it straight away. That's why you saw 80-something% of the sites failing. And let me show you an example. So these are, I think, all four of them to me are fairly easy to see. But in terms of contrast, the last one is the clearest one. And there's a set of rules for it and some very complicated mathematics behind it. You don't really need to worry about it. Any time you put a color on a page, your web browser will have tools in it that can tell you this is not accessible against the background that it's on. Yeah, so it's comparison. So you have to be really careful, because obviously if I put the text color that's in the bottom right on the background color that's in the top left, you won't see that, because that's it. It's the contrast between the two that's the issue. Now, it's the same with graphics. You shouldn't rely on color alone to have meaning. So this is a really random pie chart, or donut chart, I think it's called, that I found. And that's fine if you can see all those colors. Now, for the ladies in the room, it's a very small percentage of women who have color blindness, as it turns, but it's a very high percentage of men, especially of red-green blindness. There's the inability to distinguish between different shades of color. So if I just flip a filter on, we can see now, I've exaggerated this so that everybody can see, but hopefully you can start to see that some of these shapes are merging into one. And I've tried a different type of filter. And again, depending on your own site, some of these will merge into one. So you can't rely on just image. Yeah. So the contrast is important. The color is important, as is the contrast. And again, most accessibility checkers or browsers will tell you when it's a problem, and then most will also give you a suggestion about what it could be. The other thing I tend to think is, don't rely on color alone. Always have two indicators of something. So for me, that would mean I would probably, instead of using just red, I might have red with cross hashes, and I might have yellow as pixels and green as dots, and etc. Yeah, so you can still use the color, but I'll use a shape as well. It's the same as in your content with your links. If you see an underline in a piece of text on a web page, do you click on it? I think almost everybody in this room is going to say, well, probably they will try, because we're used to links being underlined. Why you never actually use the underline ability on any of your websites? Because people start to click on them. But quite often you see that templates have designed the link so that it's just a slightly different color to the rest of the body text. That might be all right, but depending on the contrast, people might not be able to see the difference between the text color and the color of the body of the link. So if you add a text decoration, so that's an underline or a dashed line or something like that as well, then it will really help. And again, the built-in accessibility checker in Joomla will find this stuff out and will highlight it for you. And it will give you errors, warnings, and I can't work out this one. You need to have a look at it. And that's usually when you've got a piece of text that's on a background which is a photograph or an image rather than a regular color. So it can't work out that, but it knows that might be a problem. I better tell you about it. You can make up your own mind. So this is the hardest bit that I've had to try and do the slides for, and I've actually probably not done what I set out to do, which is the image description, the alt text. I think probably everybody in this room knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. There's the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, you know what? That's not true. It's a lie. Because what can Google see on this page? It can just see the text. It can't see the image underneath it, just sees the text, if it's lucky. So your image should be there to enhance the contents, not be the contents. Now, I get on that, the image that's on the right-hand side, I see these every day on Facebook in some of the groups that I'm in. People who have designed posters, made a JPEG of the poster, and then post it on Facebook. That's their events. But nobody can read it. Well, some people can. The person that wrote it, presumably, but a lot of people can't. What can anybody read the text on that one right now? It's quite small. I sort of simulated it. If it was on your phone, it would be really hard to read. But it's an image, so you can't have a machine read it out to you if you can't see. Google can't see it because Google just sees pixels. So picture is not your content. Picture should enhance your content. So we used to, there's no excuses. Whenever you add an image into Joomla, and I've found 3 different places here, there's a lot more, but they're all very similar interfaces. They all say, enter the description of the image or the alt text. They also have an option now for no description. That means it's what they call a decorative image, but you have to specifically check that box to do that. It's not the same as no image at all. There's no description at all. So let's look at this bull. The important thing here is I want to describe this image. So it could be a bull charging. It could be a bull running on sand. But it's got to enhance the content. Why have I used the picture of a bull? Well, because I was calling bullshit on this. So I need, okay, so Wesley got it. So what I can do is I need to explain my little joke as part of the description. Yeah. So it's saying that you can't, that's what your text description of the image should be. It's in context of the actual text. So it's not enough to say it's a bull running on sand. It's a picture. It's you would write a charging bull disputing that, challenging you that images are worth 1,000 words. So it's about the context that it's in, which is why there are lots of AI tools which will give you alt text descriptions automatically or suggest them. When I wrote this PowerPoint presentation, every time I put an image in, PowerPoint was suggesting, but all it was doing was looking at the image, not the rest of the page that it's on, not the context. Yeah, so if you want to illustrate it, the context, you have to put that in. And decorative would mean if you had some graphics at the corners, for example, or you have a squiggle on the screen that you've for design purposes, nobody needs to know the description of that. Yeah, nobody's life is will benefit from hearing that between these 2 paragraphs there is a curly-whirly dividing line. And nobody knows. That's where you use the descriptive image tag, and then that means that your screen reader will just ignore it. And of course, Screen reader ignore it means Google ignores it at the same time. So again, built in with the Joomla accessibility checker, it will test for about 20 different scenarios with images, and it will highlight them. So here we can see from the test screen, it's found this one, it's missing the alt text. And it's telling you if the image conveys a story, a mood, or important information, be sure to describe the image. And the third one, it's pulled up a question mark. And why is it pulled up a question mark? Because it says the image alt text has got a suspicious stop word. What does that mean? Well, it means you've probably used the word image or photo or graphic or something like that as part of the description. You don't need to use those words because the screen reader will already have used image of. So you don't want to hear image of a photo of. Yeah, so it's spotting those and giving you a bit of a warning. It's also finding out, it's a bit difficult to see on this screen, but it's highlighting ones that have been marked as decorative with a warning symbol so that you can check that they really are decorative, etc. So, as promised, coming on to the final part, which is going to be a bit more freeform, which is my power tools. So what am I using when I'm looking at sites? How do I identify issues, etc. So I have a few tools in my tool bag, most of which probably you've not heard of. So the first one is this one. It's called Purple Alley. If those of you don't know, A11, not ALL, but A11Y is shortcut used typically for accessibility because there are 11 letters between the A and the Y of accessibility. But it's just a common shortcut. This one is a desktop application, and you open it up, put your URL in that you want to scan, and how many pages to scan. So you can see it's defaulting to scan at 100 pages, but it will just keep going forever if you've got a really big site. So make sure you do put a level on. And when you do that, it will come back and give you an HTML report that looks something like this. And this is the one 340jatc.org. Was that Mike's site? I can't remember now. But it's crawled 70 pages. And at first glance, it says there are 2,000 elements that must meet that basically fail on the color contrast. 688 links are missing discernible text. So that kind of sounds quite worrying and quite bad. Actually, if you look at the top right, it says the pages, there's no more than about 6 to 8 errors on each page. So it's actually finding the same errors over and over again across the pages, which I can show you in a moment. So the other tool, I think probably most people are familiar with using or have used or have seen used Google PageSpeed, or otherwise known as Lighthouse, which you can put your site through and will give you a rating for performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO of one page of your site. It doesn't crawl your site. So Joe, you've just built your new site. You can test it with this and get your results, but you're only going to get the page URL that you put in, not every single link that's on the site. So it's useful, but it could be more useful if it could test more. Well, you can. There's a fairly new test called Unlighthouse. And Unlighthouse, you put in the site that you're testing, and it will crawl the site, but it doesn't run the tests on every single page. It's a bit more intelligent than that. So if it's on a blog site or there's a blog section, it doesn't do It'll do blogs 1 to 4, but it won't do 6 to 8, 10 to 12, etc. moving forward. So it just does a reduced section of it to give you an impression. Now, the performance column, which is the first column, will be wrong. It's just because of the way this is working. It's multi-threading and lots of other things. That will be probably much lower than you would expect, but the others will be accurate. So this is one that I did of Owen's site that he asked me to look at, which is tpwc.co.uk. Ignore that score column. It's wrong. It's part of the limitations of this tool, but the rest of them are interesting. So you can see under best practices, it's pretty much 100 all the way down, apart from that second one. And that second one has only 78 for best practices and 87 for accessibility. Now, I can drill down. This is an HTML page that I can drill down into, and it will show me what the problem is. I can tell you, just so I remember it, the problem with this one is it's got some iframes in there that are not got the correct markup on them. So I use this one as quite a useful tool that's going to scan the site quite quickly and give me an overview and highlight where the problems are, and I can quite quickly drill down into them. And the final one, which in some ways is the best, it's not a new tool, and it's from Microsoft, and it's called Accessibility Insights. Now, this is a browser add-on. There are lots of browser add-on accessibility tests, but this one does something different. It does something that none of the other tests that I've shown before will do. So it will do automated tests, like we've seen the built-in Joomla one will do. It'll identify any missing links or contrast issues, images without descriptions. It'll do all of that. But those are only the stuff that can be automated. So what it will also do is, you can see, if you look on the left-hand side, there's a list of overview, keyboard navigation, link purpose, a whole series of tests. And these are manual tests that you have to do and record your pass and fail for each one. But it's telling you exactly what you should do in order to be able to test it. Yeah. Obviously, for me, I kind of go, I know how to test these because I've been doing it a lot, but it's still useful for me because it's reminding me which tests I need to run. You know, what are the things that I need to test? So, for example, the other really great thing about this one is the descriptions and explanations of the failures are brilliant. They take you off to their own site or other people's sites that give you really good explanations, not technical geeky ones, but really useful ones, but what that error means and what you should be looking to do to fix it. So that's a really, really good one. I use this a lot. I probably should use it more than I do, but it's a really, really good tool. So I'm going to try and switch off the PowerPoint and switch to my screen to show you. Can you still see my screen, by the way?
We can see your
yes,
screen.
I can see someone lovely. Great. So sorry, one sec. And you can still see, you can see now the wrong site. Right. Now you can see and I can't see you guys. So just, yeah, now I can see you as well. So hopefully you can see now one of the pages of the website, Oyster SEO. Yeah.
Yep.
And this is Louise's site. Louise is the marketing lead for Joomla. So she did ask me to look at this site, but she hasn't seen what I'm about to say. So I will show it to her afterwards. So first of all, let's have a look. We've got logo, we've got some links across the top here. We've got, this is a menu, some text, an image, subheadings, some links, some more links, address. Fairly standard. It's a fairly standard page, nothing special. It's Cassiopeia, so it's the default Joomla template. But from an accessibility point of view, it sucks. So let me do live. This is that accessibility insights tool. And I'm just going to actually ad hoc tools, look at the landmarks. And we've got banner, main menu, main. That breadcrumbs, that looks all right. Okay, what else have we got? Let's turn that off. Tabs. So what's the point of tabs? Tabs is the bit that lets you navigate around if you're not using a keyboard. So if I click in the URL bar, okay, we've got no skip to, and this tool is adding in a marker and a trail of what I'm doing. So for home. Right, so let's go to Oyster website. So I just hit enter. Okay, it's loaded. Now, this is why you need a skip link, because I've now got to go past all of those to get to it again. Yeah, that's why you need a skip links. Look at this. Get in touch, get in touch, get in touch. They're all look the same, but actually they all go to different places. One for a single page, one for a 5-page, one for a an e-commerce site. So you're missing out. There's no connection between the button and the text and its purpose. You're not telling. So if you were here, you read this whole thing and you get to the bottom and say, oh, this is the one I want, but you hit this button just because they're all the same, aren't they? Well, they're not. So you're telling people the wrong thing. Various other bits. Okay, quick links. Probably most sites are going to have something like this in the footer. Links. So what is a menu? A menu is a collection of links. So what is the best way to create quick links? Well, I would suggest you create a menu for the quick links, and then it's easy to manage, etc. Not custom module and put each link in separately, which is what this is. So it also means it doesn't have the code behind it that Joomla does for you for free that identifies this as a navigation group of links. The screen reader doesn't see that. Again, at the top, these items at the top, fairly common, I think, for people to have somewhere on their website. Can anyone spot the odd one out between all of these?
The phone number is not linked.
Who said that?
Mike.
Mike, you're absolutely correct. Are you actually looking at the site yourself, Mike?
I did yesterday.
Yeah, you cheated. The phone number is not a link. It's just text, and everything else is a link. But it's not visually. There was no clue. If you were tabbing, you would tab past the phone number. So all sort of things. So let me go back to that story page. And you know what I said about, well, I hope you remember what I said about visual hierarchy and structure and heading levels. So here we have, I would guess, an H1, H2, H3. That's what I would guess. Actually, what you've got is that that's an H1, and then we jump to an H3. There isn't an H2 on this page, so that's confusing to accessibility. And this one is actually an H5. right? So we go 135. Why? Well, the reason is the person who built this page has looked at the visual styling of the H5 in their templates and gone, that's about the right size text that I want. Yeah, so that's not really the right way to do it. So let me turn on the Joomla accessibility check, and it's come up in the bottom right hand corner with 228 issues. Oh, and you can see it's highlighted them all. Well, all sorts of different ones. So this is tells me that going the H1 to H3. This is saying, oh, it's got the alt text, and it really doesn't like this block. And it doesn't tell me anything about that. Whoops. And very sensitive, but 200 issues on the one page is a bit much. So as a gift to Louise, I redid it for her. Okay, so it looks virtually identical. There's a few minor styling changes that I just couldn't be bothered to do. But we actually, if I switch on that tester again, 5. So we've gone from, how many was it? 280 to 5. And what are those 5? The same things. It doesn't like these. It's warning me about linking to a PDF. That's it. And it's warning me to check this image. So there's no actual errors anymore, but visually it's the same. But importantly, by code, it's different. And so there we have the access key. Remember I told you about that I've enabled. And you can see I can nicely go and navigate through and jump to the specific parts. And the phone number is a link now, because I made it a link. And everything works as it should do. So super simple to make for me to make the changes once I looked at it. And it would be super simple for you to make the changes as well. There was, I'll show you and then I'll shut up. One last thing. So this is my test pages. Mike, did you give me one of your sites to look at?
Yeah, that was the JATC 340.
Okay, right. So as you're here, I shall show you results. So this is the results of that purple hats, the purple alley one that I showed, which looks like that's quite scary, those numbers, but actually they're not. So if I click on this first one, element must meet the minimum contrast ratio. It gives me a nice description, a link to some more information, and it's telling me which pages have got this issue and how many times. And then it's even showing me, whoops, on this page, that's a screenshot of the actual issue. So Mike can see that that pale blue on the dark blue is the problem. This is the path to it. This is the HTML element. And then it's even suggesting which color you should be looking to change it to. And so it's really quite quick and easy for that. And then you can run the scan again, and it's going to knock that one off one for every single page that's on the website. So it starts to get a lot better. One of the other ones, now this one was an interesting one. And if I looked at this one, we can see that on this page, no, not this one, Oh, that's the same one. All right, okay. It's found something that's invalid code within the market, and there's a few places on this site that it's found issues that are not Mike's fault for building the way he's built it. They're bad code from the template company. And Owen's site was from the same company and it had the same issues. So here we can see heading levels should only increase by 1. So on this page, we can see it's going H3, I think it says H1 and then an H3, but it's taking you right through so Mike can actually work his way through the list. So some of them you can absolutely do yourself when you look at them, and others you might be uncertain. So this is one that I checked that I was uncertain of. This is the one I thought I was clicking on before. And it just says the ARIA role should be appropriate for the elements. Now, ARIA is a bit like an add-on for HTML. It's an extra bit that adds where you can add accessibility instructions to the code. But you should only add them if you need to. So if HTML doesn't have it already, then you add it. If it has, you don't. The first rule of ARIA is don't use it. It's there to cover the gaps. And in this case, yeah. So in this case, it's highlighted this element, and it's told me in the text I scrolled off that role equals group. All of this is wrong for how it's being used. I won't go further, but basically one part of it's taking it out of the navigation tree and the other part's telling what it should be described as in the tree. You can't have both. They're exclusive. They're mutually exclusive. And here's what headings should not be empty. This we see quite often. If I look at this this code here, there is no text in that heading. Now, it's probably that the text has been deleted from the page, but not the actual HTML around it. But again, it's easy to go through and see it. And this report, you can keep running and running and running, and you will get, oops. You also get a PDF, it's kind of like a summary sheet. So if you've done this for a client, you can sort of send this to them. This is the summary of all the issues. And then you can say, this is what it looked like before I started my work. And you just paid me to fix your site. And this is what, and send them a new report showing all the hopefully fixed issues. So that's that. And final one, my home. So as Mike is in the room, and this was his site, this was the lighthouse scan. And actually you can see, if I scroll down, again, remember, ignore that first column. It's not accurate, but everything else is. And so if I go to, let's say this one, it's now opening up the individual lighthouse page that you could have run yourself before, but it's done it all for you. And then you can scroll down and see all the things. So in this one, on the accessibility, it's kind of contrast. And you can see it's showing you exactly the same things that we saw on the other tester. It's just a different way of working. So it's different options for different people. The reason I like this one more than purple is that it's doing sampling, so it's not showing everything, and purple will just scan until it tells you to stop. Including when I tried to scan www.joomla.org, it kept going and started going through the entire extensions directory, the volunteers portal, and everything else that I hadn't noticed, and it was just going on and on. So This one's a bit better because it just does less things. This domain that it's on, Mike, is not a public one, it's a local one, but I'll zip it up and send you it so that you can have a look through if that would be useful to you. And you can do various other filters, you know, different ways of looking at the exact same information. Yeah, so on that note, I'll keep my share open just in case, but I want to say thank you very much for being very patient and listening to my passion project, which is Joomla and accessibility. And I hope you found it useful. I hope you've come away with at least one thing that you're going to go switch off your Zoom and go, I must check what that is on my site or on some other site, or I must bookmark that tool for a future reference. Even if it's just one thing, that's awesome. Hopefully there's more than one. And Joe, over to you. If people want to ask questions or whatever. Oh, so actually Wesley's I'm just looking in the chat now. So Wesley's put heart, like the slide with low contrast, white text on mustard background. That actually, I did check that just to see what PowerPoint said about the color contrast on that slide, and it surprised me and said it was perfectly okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very bizarre sometimes when it will pick up things that it says absolutely no and absolutely yes.
I couldn't barely read it.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing, Brian. That was the best presentation on accessibility that I've ever experienced. So I want to thank you for that. There was so much incredibly useful information on it, and you are an excellent presenter. And I think that the world's a better place when they have people like you to be able to show a group such as ours and anybody else that would be interested this kind of thing. I have actually experienced several different accessibility presentations, and yours knocks it out of the park. Really,
Thank you very much, Joe. My head, if it wasn't big already, is getting bigger. I'll have to move further back so it stays in the camera.
So please, if anybody has a question for Brian, please go ahead and pop right in there. So FJ Ventura, Brian, I believe Hathaway, I think that's you. Go for it.
Oh, that's me actually.
Yep, go. Okay.
So first of all, Brian, it's really satisfying to have you here in a more personal context. Thanks for doing this. I have, I hope, a simple question. I appreciate what you mentioned about only using color for things like infographics and links. And that's something that I often fight with clients about because they don't want to have any kind of indication other than color on links. So sometimes about 50% of the time I'm able to get away with a dotted underline, which satisfies the SEO and all that. But do you have any websites that you can point to where this has been done effectively, where I could show them, like, here's a government website where this has been done very nicely. It doesn't take away from the design, etc.
Oh, I was going to give you the opposite. I can give you plenty of government websites where it does take away from the design. It's like all design things. It's about context. So I do quite often use instead of an underline, use CSS to do a very faint dotted line that's slightly below, that space, the margin between that and the text is quite a bit lower. It doesn't look as obvious. I'm just trying to think of a site where I might have easy access to that has got that. I'll just quickly hit this one open. Yeah, like exactly like this. Yeah, so it's not an underline. It's not a. The text decoration is none, and it's got a position for the line. That works quite well in a lot of cases. It doesn't work well in some others. It's all, so it works well on one part of the page and not on another. It's not a one solution fits all, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. Well, the dotted underline seems to be the easiest selling point, but having a little bit of space like that, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because the actual underline itself, quite often from a design perspective, is too close to the text. It's that puts people off. Not that there's a line, it's where the line is. Anybody else?
Great, thank
Feel
you.
free. Anne.
It can't be NA not applicable.
Yes. One of the things I've struggled with is the color contrast.
Yeah, so there was just
And ironically, I was working on a woman's website who does have physical disabilities, and I was fighting her about this. She doesn't have visual disabilities, and somehow she wasn't making the connection. But she wanted like an orange color on white, and no matter what I did, I couldn't find a good contrast. It felt like I was ending up with just these really bold, boring, ugly combinations.
So there are cases where that will happen, especially orange seems to be the #1 color that has issues. So in the Joomla admin template, where you have orange, which is the warning, it doesn't look very good in some places. It looks a bit sort of mud brown.
Yeah.
There's not, I think with everything, it's about a compromise. It's about what's called in accessible terms, it's called an accommodation. So ideally, there would not be 2 steps to get into the building. But if you have to have 2 steps, if you put a ramp there, that's an accommodation.
Okay.
So it's, it's different things.
Okay. What about there's the AAA level and the AA?
You will never achieve AAA ever.
Okay.
Yeah, it's AAA has, so for those of you who don't know, the accessibility standards have 3 levels: A, AA, and AAA. Joomla tries to work to the AA standard. AAA covers more than can be done in a CMS. You would have to do every single item on the page manually. And even then, I'm not sure you could ever make an entire site pass at AAA.
Okay. Thank you. And great presentation.
Thanks. Yes, Tim.
Ryan, I want to jam a question in there that we actually started talking about prior to the official meeting, is the fact that Joomla 4, and I would say Joomla 5 as well, has an accessibility plugin that you can turn on.
Okay, so let me just zoom this down a bit. So and I'll switch it. Right, so hopefully you can still see my screen.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right, so very quickly, you remember that was the skip link. So that's enabled by default in your admin. And it's a plugin called skip. And then you would just change that to say both. Okay, so that was for the skip to add that. But what Joe was actually talking about was another one that's not available, not installed by default. And additional accessibility features is what it's called. And I'm just going to leave it in the admin only for now. Oh no, I better do it on the front end. Okay, save and close. You can see now, hopefully, in the bottom corner, there's a
Yes.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
If I click on that, it offers lots of things like increasing the text size and decreasing it, increasing character spacing, and inverting colors, grayscale, forcing underline of links, big cursor, reading guide. This is one I actually do use, or something similar to this. So you can actually use it to keep track of where you are. And then the final two, text to speech and speech to text, that depends on which browser the person's using, because it's not available in all browsers. But it will
Text to speech.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Any error messages that say things like fatal error or strict or similar things that indicate that something is not working correctly.
Right, so I don't know if that came through or not. I forgot to set it up. So there is this thing. This is not, and I want to emphasize this 1,000 times, this is not a replacement to you having accessible content in any way. It is a useful thing that you can add that might make certain parts of your website more accessible for some people. It will only work properly if your code is already accessible. You know, it will not turn accessible. It will not turn non-accessible content into accessible content. Right? Why am I really stressing that? There are, unfortunately, 3 or 4 companies who completely pollute the Google indexes for accessibility with their adverts, who offer something that looks like this, but does more or claims more. That it will, one line of code, I will fix all your accessibility problems on your website forever, etc. I'm sure you've all seen them. I'm not going to share a link to them because I don't want to promote even further. But what I can tell you is 25% of all the court cases in the USA today regarding accessibility issues on websites are sites that use those tools. Yeah, so 25% of the sites that have got problems, big enough for someone to take them to court, are using one of these supposed one-line solutions. So what's here is possibly useful, possibly not, Joe, is what I would say. It does look good. And some people turn it on just because they want people to think, to feel better, you know, have that warm, fuzzy feeling. But that's, from my perspective, that's all it really does.
That's an excellent explanation, and I do appreciate that, because I think most people would assume that by turning that on that they would meet the WAG standards, you know.
No. So in theory, yes, some of it might, but not. But you should be fixing the things that it wouldn't meet. You should be doing anyway.
Brian, my question relates to that. Then I have a second one.
Yeah.
I had someone.
Tim, one question only. Don't be greedy. Go. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I only had one till I saw something in the back.
Okay.
I had someone ask me how to change the icon for that tool. And I said to him, well, why do you want to change it? Because I looked it up and it's the universal and everything. And he says, well, here in Italy, it's actually offensive.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right. It's why I personally don't use this. It's a third-party tool, and it got messed up, and virtually impossible to change that icon, which presumably you've realized, which is why you're.
Yeah, it's actually an icon in a file somewhere. I just was wondering where that file was.
It's an icon or an emoji, and it's both hopeless. Yes, this wheelchair thing does not accurately represent accessibility. And in fact, what does is the one that we actually use on the accessibility checker, content articles.
Do you
Is
know where
this
that?
one.
Do you know where
Yeah.
what file that icon is set in?
Yeah,
offhand?
so your problem, Tim, is that's a font awesome icon,
Okay.
which is in the Joomla font set, and that tool is using material icons or emojis. If you actually have a look, you'll find that question has been asked a lot, and there is no answer other than me rewriting that tool, which I've offered to do, but it's a big job.
Okay, thanks. My other question was, all right, in the admin area of your site there, you used the drop down to change to light mode. Where'd you get that?
That's 5.1 beta. So
Oh,
this will be so what you're looking at right now is Joomla 5.1.
Okay.
And
so that's gonna be there in the next Joomla.
Yeah. So that's the default.
Awesome.
And the dark mode has been completely rewritten. Looks nice now. And you can,
Okay. No, I saw that because that's I mean, I'm happy to see that. I'm I'm disappointed because it's one of the best, it's one of the highest traffic on my videos, but that's good. I'm happy to have it in the core.
Yeah. So it's a bit more what you might need to check the advice in your existing video might be no longer applicable.
Oh no, yeah, no, if
as well because the way it's been done, the dark mode is different.
Yeah. No, the great thing is I'll just make another video saying that it's in the core now. Awesome, thanks.
Is there anybody else, or if not, I've got one final thing to show you, which is a great example of what not to do.
I have a question.
Yes, Mike.
So as you know, I did use UTheme Pro for that site. Does the Joomla accessibility checker work with page builders like UTheme?
Okay, so I will give you two answers. I have no idea whatsoever because I will not use those page builders.
Okay.
All I can tell you, Mike, in fact, running these tests for this talk on your site and on Owen's site, which both use UTheme Pro, failed massively on certain bits which are not your fault. They are errors in UTheme's code. And so that's why I didn't, so they're not your errors as such, but you're the one that suffers from them.
Sure.
You'll see it. Well, I'll email you this report, the reports I generated, and you should see them and realize it's nothing that you did wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So sorry.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I want to just finish, if that's all right, Joe, with one thing, which was some of you might have seen when I posted about this talk. Alison wrote something about Domino's pizzas in the comment on Facebook, and just to explain that, it is almost impossible using your keyboard alone to order a pizza from Domino's. Because there are pop-ups everywhere. And I was going to show that one again, and I came across another site which actually does it worse. So I thought I would share it, because this is a site that presumably is very new and presumably should be following the law.
Oh.
So I'm not making any political. I will make a political comment by showing you something bad on Biden's site afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to Donald Trump's site. Oh, sorry. Has it gone? Oh, I'm not going to show this site to Brian. Oh. Right. Okay, so this is how I've landed on the sites. I understand in American politics, having to raise money is a major part of campaigning. That's fine. So I'm not using my mouse now. I'm just going to use my hands to actually not donate, but read what's on the website. So I'm going to hit the tab key. And I'm into the website now. I know I am, because if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's actually highlighted a link to hash main. And I'm just going to keep tabbing until I can get to that red cross that will close this pop-up model. I'll let you into a secret. You never can. The keyboard focus is not in this pop-up. It's something quite common to see and super simple to fix and really should not happen on a modern website. And so that's made the entire website unaccessible because I can't close this. There is no way to close this box without using your mouse to close it. And presumably, the people that made this website have only recently made it. And presumably, they care about following the law and the disability regulations.
Scroll up. Did he say it's declared war on Canada?
And just to be apolitical, I could go on and show you lots more on this site that sucks, but that was enough because you can't see the rest of the sites. Is Biden's, which is joebiden.com. And again, first thing you get to is a campaign thing, but
maybe it was made by the same web company.
No, I can't get off. Oh, I can get off. Oh, it's hard to tell, but I can. I'm off. Okay. But I'm really hoping that this is a fake website because I suspect it's not. Who thought that this merchandise was a good idea? Devil's glowing eyes.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
So I'm just ending on that because that's just.
So it looks like the glasses.
Brian, before you go though, I just want to make a comment that you talked a lot about the desktop versions, right? What about for iOS, Android, and also for, tablets? How does this affect those? Because, I mean, you pointed out this closing of pop-ups and such like that. I am actually a blind user, and I will tell you that on the phone, it is mayhem to try to close the pop-up windows on the phone, just as an example. Okay, so I just want to point that out. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop the sharing. The mobile. So actually, most of the thing about most of the accessible structure things that I talked about and the alt text descriptions and all the rest, actually, the more you do them, the better they will make the mobile version of the site as well. And a lot of the testers default to testing at mobile width. That's their default mode, and I have to switch them to test in desktop mode. So,
good, thank you.
Well, everybody, this has been a very insightful meeting today. I've really, really enjoyed it. Now, we have a bit of a tradition where we'll officially close the meeting with our radio voice celebrity here from Canada, is on the West Coast, Tim Davis. But before we do that, Brian, what's your availability? Are you do you have to run and you're done, or did you want to hang around for a bit?
No, I can hang around for a bit.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to officially end the presentation. I'll get Tim to close it off officially for us. And once Tim does that, I'm going to shut down the recording. And then anybody that wants to hang out for a bit will do that. So Tim, will you officially close our session for today, please?
Hey, sure. As usual, I hope that wherever you are, be it morning, evening, afternoon, or tomorrow, that this finds you well. Until the next time, enjoy your Joomla sites and God bless.
All right. Thank you very much. That was excellent. So I'm turning off the
So I have a
record.